morning. Welcome to this month's episode of HRA Coffee Talks. Today I have Camille Knowles here with me, who's an HR advisor with HR Advantage, and we're going to be talking about this month's awareness happens to be domestic violence. And Camille has had the opportunity to write an article on this very topic, sad topic that does happen for our local newspaper here in Springfield. And she wanted to provide, and we thought it would be a benefit and value to provide some helpful tips to you employers out there who might encounter individuals or employees that come to you with any kind of relations with domestic violence or any signs and signals to be aware of. Camille, would you care to elaborate on what that might look like and what employers could do?
Sure. The CDC reports that it's really not if it's going to be in your workplace, it's when it's going to be in your workplace, because 1 out of every 4 women and 1 out of every 10 men will be affected about domestic violence. So you might, as an employer, be asking yourself, what can you do, or what signs are you looking for? So some of the signs that you might see is if you see an employee who is anxious, they're nervous, they can't concentrate, or are depressed, and that's kind of not the norm for them. If they're wearing clothing that is not seasonal, so let's say it's 80 degrees outside and they've got long sleeves on, maybe they're wearing heavier makeup than normal, sunglasses, that could be they're trying to hide something. Maybe there are a lot of unexcused or excessive absences that were not planned. These can be red flags. Just some personality changes. So those are things that you might want to be aware to look at. And as an employer, something that you could be very proactive in doing is making sure that the restrooms in your facility, and you want to make sure that they are gender neutral or in the men's or the women's, is that there is the hotline for domestic violence in there. You also might want to put local shelters. So here locally, the Harmony House and the Victim Center come to mind, because that's kind of a very private area that they can write things down. They might be able to make a phone call or something, and they're not having to go to HR or to the owner, because sometimes employees are very nervous. It's embarrassing sometimes for them, or just the stigma of having that situation happen that they feel uncomfortable. A lot of employers also have code words, purple. So if an employee comes to them and says, I have a situation, purple, it kind of notifies the HR to maybe start talking to that employee about ways the employer could help them. And here are some ways that the employer could help if an employee comes to them. You might ask them, do they feel safe at work? Would they like to have maybe a priority parking so they're closer to the building? Would they like to have maybe a buddy system so somebody could walk to the parking garage to and from so they feel safe? A lot of times the employee doesn't maybe want their partner to know they're still working there. So temporarily, maybe taking that employee's name off the phone roster, maybe off of the website. Basically asking the employee, what can we do to help support you? Maybe modifying their hours, because a lot of times they have to go to court, they have to fill out paperwork, maybe go to the police, and a lot of that is during work hours. So if the employer can do some modification with some of their schedule, that would be very helpful. One of the things that I would caution is personally trying to do any kind of consulting or advising. Leave that to the professionals. If you have an employee assistance program, maybe give them that information, and hopefully the hotline and our local shelters will be able to give them some kind of support that is needed. It's just making sure that they feel comfortable, because honestly, their work environment might be the safest place that they feel. I do know that there were some laws that were passed in Missouri, and so I'm going to hand it to Lynette to kind of go through that and see if you as an employer are affected by this new law.
Very good. Thank you for that, Camille. That is really great information. And I definitely took some nuggets, as way from that. And I love the code word and just, because that might be their safe haven, for sure. And many of you may or may not know, but back in August, that Missouri did pass a law, and it's called Missouri Victims Economic Safety and Security Act, which we don't expect you to remember, but for short, it's a VESSA, VESSA. And if you haven't received it already, it's coming. You can go onto the Missouri Department of Labor site. You can download it. It will be included in the all-in-one posters, if you order from HR Advantage this spring. And then also we advise this is for employers who have 20 or more employees working in the state of Missouri. There's certain thresholds, and it's basically if you have 20 or more and you're 20 to 49, it's 1 week of unpaid time off for domestic violence related activities that might be, like Camille said, going to court. It may be even filing a police report, something to that effect, something to kind of get them, taken care of the best they can. And that is mandated by Missouri. If you're above 49, so if you're at that 50, it's 2 weeks of unpaid time off. And, of course, an employer can voluntarily do this. Just because you're not at the 20 doesn't mean you wouldn't, allow for time off, but it is mandated. And October 27th, so that's next week, that Missouri employers are to have the postings out and that awareness. You can put it into your policy manual. If you have any kind of portal, or intranet, that would be a good way to get that circulated. And of course, you can contact HR Advantage if you happen to have any questions or would like a copy of that free poster. So feel free to let us know. But good discussion. I know the topic is uncomfortable, but it's important, and it is there. It's happening. And we appreciate you tuning in to October's HRA Coffee Talks. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.